Mary will let us know when we are live. Oh, and so does the screen. So we are live for the Urban Forestry Board meeting for December 10th, 2020. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Carol to kick off the meeting.
All right. The agenda for today. I think we need to approve the agenda. I'm not sure why, but we will approve the agenda for today. Has anybody?
I make a motion we approve the agenda. Reno Runk does.
I beg your pardon.
Second.
I make a
We have a
motion
motion
we
and a
approve the
second.
agenda.
Correct.
And I did second, Gerald.
Gerald? Is there any discussion about this agenda today? Fine, then all approve, say aye.
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 Do we have any nay? I think not. The monthly report for November.
Minutes. Do minutes and then we'll go.
Well, we had, I thought it was interesting. We didn't have any minutes put in here.
They're right there.
Oh, all right. I looked over the minutes. I found no questions. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes?
Under the first item, the supervisor of urban forestry position will be posted and open to the public position. What happened about that?
So we have Robin Hunt here today. He will be promoted to the urban forestry supervisor position come December 13th.
Thank you.
I personally think that's.
Hi, Robin.
I personally.
Good morning. Good morning, all.
Robin is phenomenally qualified. He's been with the urban forestry program and his entire tenure here at the city, which is 30 years. Is that right?
29, 30, yeah.
29 and a half.
Yeah.
He's well versed in the ins and outs of the program overall. I will still be here as his champion, his cheerleader, if you would. So I think it's the best move that we could have. We had two internal candidates, Robin and Matt Dickman, that applied for the position. Both interviewed very well, but it was an easy decision given Robin's persistent influence on the program and deep knowledge of how the inner workings work out. So as of the 13th, Robin will be taking on the urban forestry supervisor position.
I think congratulations are definitely in order. Robin was the first person I ever met on this board. We have our own little story about that.
Any other comments on the minutes?
What has the city manager done about Scott's appointment?
Yeah. Who has that?
It was approved through the park board in November. And then the memo went to the city manager's office shortly after. I haven't heard anything back. I don't foresee it being stopped in any way. I think everyone is just kind of focused on budgets and whatnot. So I'll have Mary follow up today. I don't foresee it being an issue going forward, but I'll definitely let you know whenever it's approved.
Well, I'm going to consider you, Sarah, as part of the board. I think we all should do that.
And then under municipal code 743, what is the, Don, have you gotten your comments to Sheila yet?
I have, and they were incorporated.
Okay.
Hey, Reynold, under that same section, we talked about the definition of street tree, and public tree. You had a question. Do you want to have Courtney elaborate on that?
That'd be great. We can do that now.
This municipal code, the way it's written, where does this stand? Is it done?
How to track it. No, ma'am, it has not been, the park board has not seen it. The director has seen it, has given us feedback. I brought that feedback to you last month.
Yes.
Actually, I brought that feedback to you last month with the suggested edits. We approved everything that she had added. And then we had the addition from Don
Mhm.
in a specific section. And that was in the section 743.7 permits required. Don asked that we include the need to get a permit from the Department of Engineering
Mhm, mhm.
prior to moving forward. So that was the latest edit that we've had. So you had a question on the definition of street.
No,
We talked-
we had a discussion, the actual discussion is not reflected in the minutes, but Reno had a question on why we changed street tree to public tree. You kind of want to go over your thinking there?
Yes.
Why we-
So and this edit was made throughout the document.
All right. Are we changing that, and does it require any form of changes to the original document back to 1906 or something? Does this change anything with respect to? I need a legal opinion
I'm
here.
not sure. Yeah, I have to dive back into this. The track edits that I have here.
I don't know.
So basically the difference between a street tree and a public tree. So we changed the definition of a public tree to expand beyond
Yes,
a public tree located with,
in the right of way.
it did say a public tree shall mean trees located on a public street located in the city of Cincinnati.
Mhm.
On, I think.
Well, Gerald brought up the question about what is a public tree, and he had an example of public
So
trees
what I
that
need-
were not on a street.
Yes, so what I need to do is go back through the original order. It looks like the track edits that I have in this document are not reflective of the actual track edits that we've made throughout this entire process over the past year. So what I need to do is go back through and track each and every change that we've made, because it looks like the iteration that I have here has some accepted edits, if you would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yes. So I will do a deep dive on this. We will table this again, which is, I think, is appropriate because we have our 2022 assessment coming up. I don't want to throw too much at the board at one time.
Right.
So I will do a deep dive on this between now and our next meeting and make sure that every single track edit is included so that we can actually push it forward. At that time, I will follow up via email and give a very detailed explanation of the difference between a public tree and a street tree and the major edits that we've made to this, which are few, but just by changing the language, it has effectively expanded the protection of trees throughout the city. So that will be something that we will have to explain not only to the park board, but also to council. So I
Yeah,
apologize
and
for this mistake.
no, and if I may, I know that the city manager's office, John Druick, will be very interested in having a complete understanding of all the changes. So that is really necessary also.
Yes, sir.
I remember several years ago, we had an issue with the recreation department about 2 trees that were in front of a
Right.
recreation building. And we
Oh,
got
yeah.
involved. So it's, to me, this is a little confusing where our responsibility lies.
So I can speak to that point. Go ahead,
There's
Joe.
but there is another article that says that public trees on properties controlled by other agencies are the responsibility of that agency.
Correct.
Absolutely. And that doesn't change in what we've drafted so far. It would still be that agency's responsibility to manage those trees. The draft edits that we have suggested is that those trees are extended the same protection and appraisal as street trees. So currently, the only trees in the city that we employ the appraisal process, which is industry standards on, are street trees.
Correct.
So park trees, trees on MSD, trees on any other municipally owned property are not currently extended the same level of protection. But I do have other agencies like CRC come to me and ask, how do I put a dollar value on this tree that, say, Duke Energy wants to cut down because they're putting in a new gas line?
We had a problem several years ago
So-
with school boards too.
We should have all.
So I will go through and clean this up. And again, I apologize for wasting your time on this morning, but we can do a deep dive in this in January.
Okay,
And in between now and then, I will send out a clear breakdown of all the track edits that I've made and what they mean for the city as a whole. That will be the narrative that I use in discussing this with the park board and with council when it goes to them.
anyone else have any, this is,
So back to the minutes.
yes, I think we need to return to the minutes of the meeting.
Any further comments on the minutes themselves?
Well, we are changing the number. Okay, that's fine.
Is there a motion?
Do I hear a motion?
I'll
to-
make that motion.
Are there any further comments? All right, do we have approval of the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nay? Then we will leave the minutes as approved and somewhat edited. All right,
Can we do the budget now?
we do need to go to the budget. We have people leaving.
So we're gonna, and this should have probably been addressed in the approval of the agenda.
Right.
So we are going to jump to the 2022 budget since Gerald will be leaving shortly. I just want to make sure that we have plenty of time to discuss it if there are any questions. So it's relatively the same budget as it was last year. It's 21 cents per linear foot. This will be the second year, the second assessment where we are fully employing the efforts of our GIS analyst.
Okay,
So again, that through that work, we ended up identifying an additional roughly $200,000 that was added to our budget over this. 2021 was the first year, 2022 will be the second year.
well, that would be,
Last year, we also determined that DOTE right of way
oh,
is not the responsibility of urban forestry, as that land is owned by that agency, and therefore those trees on that property are that agency's responsibility.
okay.
So I was able to reallocate that funding, which had historically been a roughly $25,000 into our preventative maintenance budget.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
that was one change that did take place. The other is represented in the personnel. 50% of my salary will come out of 792. 50% of the GIS analyst salary will come out of 792. That's just representative of the amount of work that we spend in forestry.
Mhm.
The GIS analyst portion will continue to decrease over time as we get through the GIS work that he's doing. So currently he's working on building out a work order management system. Once that system is up and running, he will move on to other things in the park board. So therefore that percentage will continue to go down over time.
Where is that reflected?
And so I am looking at the 2022 tree program recommended budget report in the expense descriptions.
I was looking on the budget page.
So you have a budget page that breaks it out in as the numbers, and then you have the rest of it reflected here in as the description. So with the urban forestry supervisor position, with Robin being promoted into that position, we did an add delete of the position that he was holding, which was a municipal crew leader or a maintenance crew leader, what we call in parks a DCL for some reason. So what I did was an add delete of that position. Because the urban forestry supervisor will be solely focused on urban forestry and not in addition to land management and green space, as Dave Gamster had done before. Forestry was a redundancy that we cleaned up by deleting that position and adding another forester. That
Okay.
forester that we're adding will be strictly focused on the South District, so our downtown district.
Yeah.
Say that again,
But
please.
since I don't know when Robin has been in this managerial role so we're doing an add delete. Basically, we're deleting the position that Robin was in. So he was the supervisor over all the foresters as well as the South District Forester. So we're deleting that DCO role and adding a urban forestry specialist position, which is what our foresters are called. That urban forestry specialist will be strictly focused in the South District, which is downtown. Does that make sense?
Well,
Yes.
how does that differ from what you were doing, Robin? You were doing downtown anyway.
He will no longer be doing downtown.
Correct.
He will just be supervising urban forestry.
Were you doing anything besides downtown before?
Well, we each have our special projects, which for me included emergency maintenance.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
And he was the supervisor of
Supervisor.
all the foresters.
right.
But I didn't do any of the budget, and I didn't
You
do
didn't.
any of the forestry board.
That's true. Okay.
So in my mind, I think that's be a really
Much
good.
More organizationally correct.
Yeah, and that South District is really intense. There's
Oh,
3CDC, there's other development that's just constantly happening. It's a whole different beast than what we get throughout the rest of the city, which is more residential. So having one person focused strictly in that area will be a
Street, do we have any tree damage with all of these protest groups?
No, ma'am. So in addition to that, we'll still have the 2 florists, which are our urban forestry technicians. We'll still have the admin tech. We currently have a recreation specialist in-house that's helping with GIS work and the street tree inventory. I've proposed, this is the same proposal as I had last year, was to add another recreation specialist dedicated to young tree maintenance, which is watering and fertilization, and adding a tree crew leader so that we can have one in-house tree crew to help put out fires around what we call put out fires. So addressing any immediate tree hazards, or helping to prune things up in between pruning cycles for certain trees that may grow faster than others. So just having a crew that has the ability to leave the ground. Currently, we have 2 florists. They basically they're there. They pick up, down branches and they can limb things up. But bringing in a tree crew leader will allow us to get a bucket truck and allow our crew to actually be aerial.
Okay, one seasonal, we're calling it recreational specialist,
That's the title, yes.
but they actually don't have anything to do with recreation. They just are dedicated to young tree maintenance and one tree crew leader. We're calling them that because that's the position open, or what?
Yes, ma'am. That is what that position is called. It is a recreation specialist. That is our seasonal position. Much like Robin's title was a Parks and Recreation Maintenance Crew Leader.
All right.
And we have 2 florists. It's just the way that our system is set up. Title wise.
The titles just simply do not reflect,
Yes, ma'am.
which seems very odd, if you don't mind.
So beyond that, as I mentioned, within the maintenance category, we have our emergency maintenance contract, our preventative maintenance contract, and our stump grinding contract. So go ahead.
Emergency maintenance, is that storm damage?
So currently that's all of us, the storm work as well as
Work orders.
work orders. So because we don't have an in-house crew, if we have anything where someone has to leave the ground, we have our emergency maintenance contractor handle any
How do we
quote
handle,
unquote fires.
how do we handle a large emergency problems. You know, like when
That's
we had.
through that contract.
That's that fund.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Crystal, I have a
Yes, sir.
question.
Uh-huh.
You have under contractual young tree maintenance for about $20,000. Is that because you expect to do most of the maintenance through your workforce?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so all the watering I would do with that seasonal, this funding is specific to doing soil injections with fertilizer in the fall with our EM contractor. So that number is directly reflective of the number of trees that we expect to plant each year, which is about 1,300. And then fertilizing the 1,300 that were planted the year prior.
Okay.
Okay. This 1,300 trees, does that reflect the area in which that, in other words, we plant by areas?
So we currently plant to replace what is removed. We do a really good job of that. Last year, we increased our planting budget by roughly 25%, or we increased our planting numbers by 25%. So that allows us to do the comprehensive planting. So that, and this is broken out in the planting section on the budget report. So spot planting is replacing whatever we remove. Comprehensive planting is targeted plantings within the low canopy areas. So that's where roughly 25% of our plantings should go.
All right. Are we doing anything still in this area? At one point, we had areas, and every 6 years, that area was highlighted or concentrated. Do we do that at all anymore?
So I feel like maybe you're talking about two different things. So every 6 years, every single tree in the city is managed.
Well, you were talking
preventative
about,
maintenance
you were
cycle.
talking
Yeah.
about when we first started doing, we call it forestry assessment, and the communities with the most efficient trees got, or, and the best proposal, we started there.
Right,
And it took 6 years for us to complete.
to do the whole thing.
Right, and we did it in two groups.
But this
That's-
does not,
No, we've shifted over to a canopy percentage,
Well-
whoever's, whichever communities are most efficient.
okay. I'm not sure we ever really discussed that, but we're no longer on the 6 parts of the city minus downtown.
Well, those communities were considered planted up.
Okay. All right.
Actually, it was 3 groups.
In the 90s.
Yeah, 96 was the last, I think 96 or was, I believe, the last year.
Okay.
From that group.
Because every now and then I do get questions from Tough. People wondering when their area is coming up, and I say, according to your person, Paul, it's always there, but.
It's not like that anymore now.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Every 6 years.
That's what I was asking.
So
Okay.
in addition to this, the budget that we have here that's reflective of the 2.4 million, I recently had a very interesting conversation with our CFO, where I was able to see the actual variance in Fund 792 over time. So 792 is the assessment fund.
Right.
As funds come in, if they're not spent, then they accumulate.
Over.
So we identified roughly $900,000 of accumulation over the past 10 years.
Could be, yeah.
From what I've gathered, every year, the team had set aside $30,000 for capital equipment replacement. We have not stayed on that schedule. So I think a bulk of it is that. So our goal is to get this year to get our equipment up to par. So replacing our chipper truck, getting a new chipper, getting the aerial lift truck for the tree crew leader, as well as 2 pickup trucks for the forester that will be focused in the downtown area, and for Robin, who currently doesn't have a truck. So the intention would be to get our fleet in order to have a full operation.
My suggestion is that you do not do that all at once, because the equipment will become obsolete all at
At the
once.
same time.
That's a good point.
And it is better on a fleet management standpoint to have a plan that you implement in at least 3 years to lessen the bubble
Okay,
of having to replace at the same time every 4 or 5 years.
okay. So that would extend out that surplus over time. So I think I would just have, that's a really, thank you very much for that suggestion. My main concern was, when this budget goes before council, 792 is out there. Everyone has the ability to see what the surplus is, and I just want to have a justification for how
For
we're
the
spending it.
surplus,
Yes, sir.
right.
Yes, ma'am. So I think that's a great justification to spend down over time to get our fleet in order. I'll go back to my team and we'll work through exactly what our dire needs are first, come up with a 3-year plan. That will not impact this budget approval today. That's just the surplus that we're working with behind the scenes. In addition to that, we have become roughly 3 years behind in the preventative maintenance cycle.
Really?
That is an issue that I inherited when I came in, and I don't know if it was just the lack of transparency between what was actually available in 792, compounded by the changes in our purchasing process, going from individual RFPs to multiple award contracts through the RFQ process. So with the surplus, I projected that we will be caught up on our PM cycle by spring of 2022. So over the next year, we will do 3 sections of our preventative maintenance cycle. This will decrease the amount of cost that we have in our emergency management contract, because that's what we've been using to limb up trees or address dead trees in these areas over the past, I'd say, 5 years. So
how are you going to be back on a systematic cycle once you catch up? Are you going to have some neighborhoods come back earlier than anticipated to make sure that you have a cycle that goes back in sync, in step with the plan?
That's a good idea, because once we do this, we're out of the cycle.
Oh, we're out of the cycle now. Instead of 6 years now, or some communities are 6 or 7, maybe even 8 years. 8 years instead of our 6-year cycle.
Yeah. So we currently have some areas that are up to 8 years behind. And so once we get all the areas caught up, then we will just cyclically go through on a 6-year cycle as we should have been. Okay. So some areas may get pruned prior to their 6-year point, I believe is the way that will work out. But it'll at least address the issues that we have now, which are roughly 3 sections of our city, almost 50% of our city overgrown and
for
has not had
8
this budget.
years. Yeah, that has not had any maintenance for, let's say, 8 years. We'll have a next maintenance in 4 years to go back into a systematic 6-year rotation, correct?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And we can adjust it if it's 4 years and some trees don't require as much or something like that. We have the ability to go ahead and remove some from the list or something like that.
Sure.
And we have done the removals in those communities already. It's what we're talking about is the prunings for those preventive maintenance neighborhoods. Correct.
Okay.
And so that's where you see the carryover for 2022 in the revenue section. So that is the 2022 preventative maintenance cycle that we'll be doing in the northeast section of the city. And then I also included our balance for Fund 428, which is our compensatory fund. So basically we use that as either replacement for trees that were lost in a given area, or we use it as a kind of emergency management stockpile. So by looking back through what has been expended out of 428, we've used it for large storms, for debris management, and for planting throughout the city.
Or something with.
What is your balance of 28?
About 100,000.
Only?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Well, it doesn't get a whole lot of activity.
105,000.
Yeah.
Have we ever had to, I think once or twice we had to dip into something besides what was emergency. Only once or twice.
Well,
Yeah.
the one year after the series of storms, we bumped up the assessment rate 2 cents for a one-time deal, and then that money went into what, for lack of a better term, a storm fund.
Right.
And Gerald may know about that better. Gamsetter is familiar with that, but that I think we had to have park board approval or council approval for us to use it. But that was like our rainy day fund for severe storms.
Because
Is
we
that
had,
gone?
no,
I don't know.
I don't think it is.
I'm not sure what fund that was. I'd have to check into that a little bit.
It'd be interesting to know if we have any of that left. Anybody disagree with that?
I can check. I also don't know what fund that went into. This is the first that I'm hearing of it.
I could go back years ago because it was years ago.
And I'm not sure, we may have used most of it. I don't know. But
Oh, I think it was 792, and that is part of the reason why you have more money than you.
You have.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I would think that any money that would come in from the assessment would have to go into 792.
Yeah. Yeah.
My understanding of 792 though is that there should not be a carryover. Is that your understanding, Gerald? Having managed this program?
I do not know. I do not know, but it is worth doing research on that.
This is what our assessment brings in on an annual basis. I think we do need to know if we have a balance of something somewhere. I don't think we're
always, you can always justify a balance because of the nature of the program.
Yeah.
You are going to have emergency, and you are going to have unanticipated storm and catastrophic failure of sort. So having a balance makes sense because of the nature of what you do.
I think we do have a balance. If I can, I can.
Yeah, I think most important is just justifying that balance.
Right. I do think we have one. I really do.
Because my understanding in reviewing Ohio Revised Code, the Ohio Revised Code specific to this, the amount that we request in the assessment, so 21 cents per linear foot, should accurately reflect the amount of work that needs to be done to manage those assets. So that's why my assumption is that each year we should be zeroing out that balance in a sense. But as you mentioned, the nature of this work versus the nature of repairing streets or lights or the other things that are covered in that revised code may have a justification for carryover.
Crystal, it is again worth investigating because I do not know what has happened to this issue for the last 5 years, but and Robin and the rest of the people that have been here for a while, I think would agree that at least until 5 years ago, the budget of forestry was pretty close to its income. So I really believe, and maybe Robin, who has kept an eye on numbers, and maybe Dave Gemsetter could be called also. I would not be surprised if most of the balance that you are talking about, the $900,000, was specifically levied on through the 2 cents when we had Ike storm. That is something that was not completely used.
Okay.
It is. So, I mean, I think it is worth looking into.
All right. I will dig into that. Yeah, that's been one of the challenges, is just the turnover. Gamsetter managed the budget. He's gone. Mary Jane handled the finances. She's gone.
She's gone.
So the director that oversaw the whole program is gone. So it's just,
He's gone
it's
too.
kind of it's a constant discovery process, but I will absolutely dig into that, and just to better understand if that's where the surplus comes from. And then I'll also get clarification from law on whether or not we are justifiable to have a carryover each year of a certain amount as an emergency storm fund.
If we don't, if that's a gray area, I think we need to make certain that that is an established ability, because our program doesn't act. It depends on emergencies. In other words, we're a unit that emergencies can happen within an instant, and other agencies are not as reflective of that particular need.
Yes, ma'am.
We can be just fine one day and have all kinds of things down within 48 hours.
Yeah, and I think it is perfectly fine use of this money to make sure that your fleet is operational, because if indeed it's an emergency fund and you do not have the trucks to go take care of emergency, that doesn't help. So for the justification, and I think you have to be careful, because if the 2 cents that was additionally raised was for the specific purpose of emergency coverage, your justification in equipment purchase should also reflect the fact that your fleet is unreliable right now.
Okay.
That's an excellent point, Gerald. Are there any further questions or discussion? Crystal, this is excellent presentation. And even though some of us have been here long enough to hear these assessment budgets every year, this was, I think, an excellent presentation, very explicitly clear. And even for those of us who've been around a while, every year is different.
This is a very clear explanation. I back that
I
comment.
was.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Are there any further comments on this recommended assessment budget for 2022? How is 20 and 21 working out? Where are we?
So 2021 will be billed out in December.
Sure.
With the property tax bill. We get those funds over the course of 21. So
Right.
we get a large portion of it in April, we get another portion in July, and then we end up getting another portion in October. I think that's just how
It's the way it works.
it's just the way the funds come in. That's still something I'm digging into. I don't fully comprehend how the funds enter the city, but I believe they come from the auditor to the treasurer,
They
or
do.
maybe they come directly to the treasurer. I'm figuring
It's
that
fine
out.
with me, however they work it out.
So 2021 will be billed out in December. That'll be the first year that we fully realize the efforts of our GIS work.
Mhm.
2020 budget has has come in as expected. It was at a 2.3 million. We did send the city bill in October for 2020. So yeah, things are working out. And then to find this surplus that we now are able to, get caught up on our preventative maintenance cycle, which is really important to our foresters. I think it's been quite the burden to be so far behind for them, just to constantly be getting the calls and, having to put out these fires and address angry residents. It's been a good couple of years here in forestry, just not having to increase the assessment,
Yes.
having the most accurate assessment that we possibly can have, utilizing the most current technology available to us, as well as finally getting into a deep dive to really see our bank account now that our finance division in parks is very transparent. So, yes. So any further questions or comments on the 2022 budget here?
Well, we do not vote on this.
So I suggest,
This is,
and I think this is what we've done in the past, is we do get a motion to approve this budget.
right,
I take that approved budget to the park board
that's correct.
to recommend that the park board accept it based on the Urban Forestry Advisory Board's deep review of it. And then I take the park board's approval to city council to
Correct.
move forward with the determination of need ordinance.
Now,
So,
before we vote on this, my curiosity is, in what manner are we presenting things to the park board and to council in areas where they're not meeting?
just as we're doing here, it's all virtual.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
and that is supposedly adequate to do these kinds of things?
Yes, ma'am. COVID hit last year in March. We finished out our budget
That was,
process through
through the,
well, mostly through the help of our downtown employees. They had
okay,
a very good understanding of the process, of the budget, of what we were asking. So I didn't have to attend council meetings because
okay.
I had the, what is his name? Chris Bingham.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's his name.
What?
Yes,
Bingham.
Bingham. He did all the presentation of our assessment at the end of last year as he was at the council meeting. So
Okay.
I foresee it being similar.
Probably, although, are they meeting virtually too all the time now?
I
Not
don't believe
totally,
they're meeting right
because
now.
we saw with all the people having difficulties with the,
Yeah, and it's fluid. It changes kind of month to month depending on where we're at with COVID.
Mhm.
So it's
Well,
10 till 9. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's still an emergency at the state of Ohio level that allow
right,
municipal meetings and meetings like the Forestry Board and Park Board to happen remotely. So
Okay.
that order has been extended for, I think, another 6 months, if I
That's
understand correctly.
that
But
was last night's news, I think, Gerald.
It's
Okay.
perfectly legal.
Okay, I'm just not wanting anybody to come up with questions after the fact. Any further discussion before we vote on this matter for her to take it to the park board? Are they meeting remotely?
Yes, ma'am. And all meetings can be seen on YouTube.
Okay,
Just like the one now.
Yes, sir.
yep. Any further questions, anybody? Do I hear a motion to accept this recommended assessment budget for 2022?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Any further discussion? Good, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? We have accepted, pardon?
Aye. I
Scott,
made it
you know,
sound, it sounded like nay. It was accidental.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. I will be taking this to the park board next Thursday. Again, that meeting is on YouTube. If you want to tune in, I'll be giving a full report on the updates for the Natural Resources Division, as well as seeking approval for this budget to take to council.
All right. Now, your new position begins
October 18th of 2020.
of 2020.
Yes, so I'm already in it.
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
So it's a good time for me to leave this meeting. I am going actually to a budget meeting. So I need to leave and I apologize.
Well, we appreciate you being here.
Gerald, will this be a meeting that occurs every time that we would have normally had this meeting on Thursdays?
Yeah, 9 o'clock about every week. I think it would be helpful if the forestry meeting happened either earlier, like at 7 o'clock.
No way.
Come on, nature people get up
No
early.
way.
Or a little bit later, like at 10 o'clock.
How does the rest of the team feel about a later meeting?
10 is fine with me, although, Gerald, are you out by 10?
Most of the time, yes.
I'm good
Scott,
with
Scott,
10
how does
o'clock.
that affect you? Scott, how does that affect you?
I'm fine.
Scott, how would 10 o'clock meeting affect you?
It's fine. It's good for me.
I'm
Well, we
sure
have some-
Scott rather like a 7 o'clock meeting.
Nay.
Don, Angie, is that time okay with you guys?
Gerald, I know how to say no in 9
Okay.
languages, including yours.
So Sheila will make a note moving forward. Our meetings will start at 10 on the second Thursday of the month.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Gerald. Have a good day.
Happy holidays.
Same to
Yes,
you.
happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, or all of them. All right, where is our agenda? Where is our agenda? Do we have an agenda?
So did
Oh, yeah.
anyone have any comments on the monthly report for November 2020?
I did not. Does anybody have any? Monthly activity report?
So just a reminder, that's pretty much an overcap of everything that we do throughout the month.
It is.
I'm sorry, Don, did you have something?
John, did
No,
you
I
have
was
a
just saying I
question?
don't have any comments.
I have a
Crystal, I had a
comment.
question for you.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
You mentioned you're hiring a new person for the downtown South District. When do you anticipate that will be?
So with the pace of government, I would anticipate that to be like a start date around February 1st. So the position is going to the Civil Service Board on today, actually, for the add delete. And then we have to do the requisition, and then it has to be posted. So I think February is probably a good time frame. In the interim, Robin will continue as the South District Forester,
Okay.
and then I'm
thank
sure
you.
there will be a few months of cross training as well. So by the February meeting, we should be presenting. I'm hopeful that we'll be presenting who that person is.
Thank you.
Okay. We have Robin in South still. West is Matt. North is Kurt. Marianne continues east.
Correct.
And yeah,
So any further comment on the monthly report? Are we good to go on?
One comment.
Yes, sir.
Planting contract. At the end of July, 275 trees remain to be planted from previous seasons. Where's that stand?
So we had our forestry staff meeting yesterday. Mary Ann reported out that about half of the fall trees have been planted now. They have until the end of January to plant out the fall season, and all that is dependent upon the ground being frozen or not. So we continue forward. I can get a full report to you once the fall season comes to completion. So
But
by the
those-
February meeting, we should have a good idea.
But those trees are planned into the 655 trees that are being planted.
Right.
So there's
Yes, sir.
900 trees being planted. Yeah, good, good,
Yes, sir.
great.
Yeah.
So,
I-
wait a minute now. Fall planting underway, approximately 655 trees. End of July. So is this 275 part of the six?
Yes, ma'am. So it would carry over into the fall planting.
Okay,
The year-to-date number that it's been planted is 686, and then there's the additional roughly 600 trees that are still to go. So based on my calculations, I think we are hitting that 1,300 trees per year goal. So that's I want to say it was like almost a 40% increase from prior years. So more trees in the ground.
How much increase?
I'm estimating about 40%. I do have the exact number. I will share with you all.
yeah,
at our
I would
next-
be interested to know at the end, when we don't have a January meeting, do we?
It's at the end. We'll talk about, I don't know. No, probably not.
Usually not.
Okay. So yeah, at the February meeting, we will have closed out the fall planting season. So I can present on exactly what 2020's planting looked like, how that is an increase from years past, and what kind of carryover we may have heading into the spring planting season.
Any further questions? Report of the natural resource manager, who I think has to leave.
So I will just say, moving forward, I will still attend these meetings. I'm gonna try to be quiet most of the time. It's tough for me. And Robin will be our natural resource manager giving these reports. So that's
Personally,
all I got.
I think that's an excellent choice.
I think I'm honored to hand over the reins.
Do you want to say anything, Mr. Hunt?
Hope we brought up to speed at our January, February meeting, I guess. So
You've never not been up to speed,
Look-
as
look
far as
forward-
I know.
Look forward to it.
All right. We have municipal code additions
So that one we decided to table
That's-
until our
so-
February meeting.
till February, right? Urban forestry bylaws, Reno,
Yes.
have anything you wish to discuss at the moment?
Well, this was brought up by Gerald too, is that one is in our mission statement. I refer to in here as the trees in the city's street right of way. And I'm a little confused about what our responsibility is and how that statement should be written. So I'm going to defer that, maybe if I could, to the staff to give me some ideas about if that should be said any differently. That if our responsibility has to lie more and any more than just street trees. The other one is that this is the one that I have some notes in here, and one of the notes is about appeals and how much time we should allow for appeals. We haven't had one for several years, but it used to be back when we allowed 5 minutes for one side and 5 minutes for the other. In other words, the staff could speak for 5
to
minutes.
6 minutes, yeah.
We had someone come in one time that had 3 issues and they repeated them for 45 minutes.
That's true.
And we need to have and I like what you put in here about appeals should be heard by the board with equal speaking time for the citizen and the board. Then we can put some time frame on that for somebody. If there is, that's fine.
So is there a discussion around that point? Should an appeal not exceed a half an hour of discussion? So 15 minutes per side?
Well,
That's something.
I really don't think that there would be a situation where
We've done 5 minutes. And because basically we've had appeals when the tree shouldn't be planted in front of my house. And the reason it shouldn't be planted in front of my house one time was because you guys didn't plan on the fact that that's where I put my garbage cans.
That's right.
How much time do we need for that person to explain that to us? As
But then,
opposed,
Randall, we also had the time when one entire block in Bond Hill came. One entire block, every person on it. It was a cul-de-sac.
and I think
So
that
I
could be
feel like-
very well handled by the staff, but just saying we're not going to plan it, period, be done with it.
So
If
that's why,
everybody want it, it doesn't have to
The
be
pur-
planned probably, but that's a staff could make that decision, for example.
so the way that the appeal process works is that the staff did make that decision, right? So you heard that appeal because the staff said, yes, we are going to plant a tree
Or
here.
no, we're not.
If you don't want a tree here, then you will have to appeal my decision to the forestry board.
Correct.
So that's one of the key functions of the forestry board is to hear the appeals of the public, and be that a tree being planted or their desire to remove an existing street tree. So we
Yeah.
have altered our internal policy to allow people to reject the planting of a street tree prior to the tree being planted. So that's why you don't get as many appeals now as you did before. So the appeals that you are going to hear in general are the requests to remove live, healthy trees.
Or not.
So in general, if the tree is live and healthy and somebody doesn't want to pay the amount that tree is appraised at, then they will come to you for an appeal. That could take more time than 5 minutes for them to make their justification. If they were to say, bring documents or present issues that would show, that they don't have the monetary ability to pay for that kind of removal. So I feel like maybe 10 or 15 minutes is a good number, not to exceed, on both sides,
But
would be my
equals-
suggestion.
One discussion was 9 minutes, 10 minutes is fine. But I'm
All right.
saying times we've had it go on for most of the meeting, and
Oh, yeah.
we have to have it set up beforehand that it doesn't become the meeting.
Okay,
So shall we add here not to exceed
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Sounds good.
Total time?
Total time.
Well, total time for one side.
Oh,
No,
okay,
That'll be
then,
equal
then
speaking time.
that's 40 minutes.
No,
Total- 'Cause I don't
appeals
think
shall,
any reason the staff would need 20 minutes to explain to us what you just explained, that we may have an appeal. So if you guys could explain it in 10 minutes, then the other side should be able to put it together in 10 minutes. So 20
That
minutes.
sounds good.
Okay.
So Sheila, at the end of that sentence, we'll add not to exceed 20 minutes.
Per,
It already says, appeal shall be heard by the board with equal speaking time for the citizen and board, not to exceed 20 minutes total, maybe.
Yeah. So
total, good.
Okay,
That's good.
any further discussion?
The only other one that I had, really, you added, they've all been, things have been added, totally. My last comment is on 8.2. Do we establish, and we do not refer to to 743 anywhere in this document. Is there, that's why I have it here. Do we need to have something in here about, Gerald brought up the fact that I didn't mention about terms, about how people are appointed to the board. And I said, well, that's all in 743.
Yeah.
So I don't need to say anything about that, but is there any, I'm just bringing that up. I'm sticking with that question. If we need anything there at all. Other than that, I think you all have answered the questions that we had at the last meeting.
Do
Except the
we
emission statement.
establish ordinance into our bylaws?
I think it would be
Do
a
we
good
establish
idea.
ordinance into our bylaws? What-
or reference. Reference.
So, okay, so I'll say that's 8.2 should not be in that section.
No,
So we would remove that.
No. No, it
We
shouldn't be
do
there, but-
mention the ordinance in section 6.1 and in discussing the general powers of the
Mhm.
Urban Forestry Board.
Okay,
So my suggestion would be to add to section 1, just a statement that the forestry board is guided by that municipal chapter.
Correct.
Charter, yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
6.1.
So Sheila, that would be adding to section 1, the first section, that the Cincinnati Parks Urban Forestry Advisory Board, in some language that sounds pretty, is basically chartered or guided by Municipal Code 743.
Might even put is established by 723 and
Yeah, I like established
Yeah.
better.
and then
I like
we'll abide by what's in there. Yeah.
By ordinance 743.
CMC, yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's good. Our mission statement, I don't see any difficulty with that.
So the mission statement is pulled directly from the ordinance.
Correct.
So if we were to make any edits to that, then it should also be reflected in the ordinance.
I don't see any.
I will take that to staff and get feedback. If you guys review it and you have any feedback on it, just email me and we'll add it to our discussion at our next staff meeting.
Isn't this exactly what we do?
So the question is whether it should expand beyond the focus of street right away.
I don't see any reason to do it. Does anyone else? I think does anyone have any question about number 2? Well, then let's just leave that as is.
Number 2.
Yeah. Number C seems to have been accepted. Anybody have a question on 4.1C? We do, we changed the number of persons.
I know what I'm
Where did we
buying.
do?
I know what I'm buying 2 of the members of the board for Christmas.
You don't need to bother. I've got one, but I don't use it here. I like to call Sheila and talk.
So do we have quorum?
We have quorum with the people there.
We have quorum total.
Yeah, we have quorum with the people there. Whose is this?
Fine.
Okay. Uh-oh. We need a something. Wait off.
All right, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so
We have a motion to approve these bylaws as revised.
I'll get to it later. Okay. Yes, we do. We needed a motion to approve these bylaws. Is there any further discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve these bylaws?
I'll make a
motion.
Don't everybody talk at once.
so Paul motions, Don
I'll-
seconds.
Any further discussion? All approved signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? They stand approved, proposed will be as approved by the board.
Okay, so I guess a good thing to do would be for everyone to review them and then we'll start employing them in our next meeting. Maybe we can talk offline about how to get the structure in place and the rotation of the board members so that we are,
I was gonna say, we have a different
Transitioning.
arrangement now, so,
oh, sorry.
and all who are subject to those other appointees. My one question is, when do we add the new people?
Whenever the ordinance is approved by council.
I was gonna say, we can't do it until council
Yep.
handles the status. Everything all cleaned up over here?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I make a
Okay.
suggestion?
Sure.
We're looking for new members to the board. And Angie has a list of community leaders that the city goes to, I believe. Should we contact them and see if there's people there for our community people that may be interested in the board? When
So
we're
we
looking-
currently have a vacancy in the green industry. I want to say in the green industry position with Eric Depke
Leaving.
leaving. So that would be the position that we need to fill.
But that's part of the original 6.
Yes, yes.
So we really need 3 more.
Eventually we will need 3 more once
Once all this is going.
once the ordinance is approved by council, which would add an additional 2 community members.
I
Yes.
asked before, last month or so, we have to do something with Eric's position. And geographically, it doesn't make any difference, although oddly enough, we have a pretty interesting geographical situation. He lives in Cuff, I'm in Roselawn. And even though Reno lives in College Hill, we don't have West Side very well represented here at all. And I don't know what we call, I mean, is there anybody that we need to have like Hyde Park, Mount Washington, or that area? So we could consider the 2 outer edges if there are persons. Does anybody else have any suggestions?
Community people, I'd like to go to some of the communities and find out if we can find any minorities that are interested in this board.
Yeah, Reno, would you be willing to lead that charge in partnership with Angie? She could at least get you the connections to some of the leadership throughout the city.
And when they meet.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah,
fine.
I think when this came up earlier about the community, they haven't been, it's the community of economic development has a joint meeting monthly with business district leaders, community reps and business district leaders. So they have not been meeting since COVID, but I can certainly reach out to them. I mean, there's a whole network, right, that we could reach out to. I think we would have to have, some written document maybe of what we're seeking, what the term entails, what the job is, to distribute that to those community groups.
They do need to know that we have, yes, go ahead.
There are community councils are meeting. They're all virtual right now, but I know plenty of community councils are meeting. But I think that one group through DCED, it's just a kind of a nice hub of a lot of different communities that they meet with instead of individually. So I think that's a good route.
Okay, thank you.
I just think we need like a one-pager describing it for them.
We'll get to Robin and we'll come up with a 1 page. I like 1 pages because I have a short attention span. I don't turn the page sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
That's a male thing.
Crystal, you may
You're
want to
probably
reach out to
right. I agree 100%. All in favor?
I'm sorry, Don, what'd you say?
you may want to reach out to the city manager since we have a new city manager and let her know that we have a opening and see if she wants to appoint somebody or because it's up to her to appoint somebody.
Right.
Eventually.
Why don't we give her the
Okay.
letter at the same time? We'll give her the letter.
And I can follow up on Scott's appointment at the same time.
Okay.
Okay. We have had in the past 2 African Americans on this council, and unfortunately, they just didn't stay. So. Budget approval, meeting dates. I have nothing more.
As far as meeting dates go, it sounds like we will not have a January meeting.
No.
Our meeting in February will be the second Thursday of the month at 10 a.m.
That's right.
And then
So that'll be February. We almost always never have, that's a strange statement. We usually do not have July or August. And we usually do have, because do we still do the tree relief
Yep.
program? And we went from spring relief to autumn relief
A while
because,
back, all right?
right? So we do need October, and do we bother with September? Well, definitely October.
September is the opportunity to bring you guys up to speed on what's been happening through the summer, as
Correct.
well as what the plan is for fall relief.
Talk about us moving fall relief further toward August or September, and we had a meeting.
Is
was-
that a
was
good
for
time?
Outreach.
That's for outreach.
What do we want to do about autumn relief? Do we
It's-
want to do September? Do we want, when do we want it?
It's in October.
Usually,
It's typically second Saturday in October typically.
correct.
So I suggest we do February, March, April, take off June, July, and August.
And May,
Unless,
take off May. February, March, April. June, May, June, July are off, then September, October, that's not 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gotta have at least one more.
we would need November and December.
We've not always had those, but that would be fine.
Well,
So-
we have to move November's because that's a holiday.
Yeah,
That second
That's-
Thursday.
is a
That's
holiday.
Thanksgiving Friday, right?
No, it's
No?
the second Thursday is Veterans Day.
It's Veterans Day.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So November, we don't have. February, March, April, September, October, December. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's got the 6, but do we have any? Robin, this is gonna be for you now. What do you want to do here?
So just
We
thinking
need-
through
we
the
need six-
assessment.
We need 6 months, right?
Yeah,
minimum.
February, March, April, September, October, December.
That's
That's
that's 6.
That's your 6.
Yeah.
We have occasionally had a May meeting. Do we still have the quadrants in Ohio where we have we go to those meetings that are like Northwest District or I haven't heard of it this year, but maybe that's because we haven't had meetings anywhere this year, but we are actually in the Southwest District. And we
Oh.
have occasionally gone to a meeting in Columbus that was statewide meeting. Is this all disappeared?
That is the
You tell-
Tree City.
Tree City,
Awards.
USA?
Oh, right. Well, yeah, that would be something different. That's not you didn't have a regular meeting on that.
No, we
Right.
did not have meetings usually that
Yeah,
month.
that would be, that's something we do every April, provided we get Tree City USA. That's the Tree City USA recognition.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be probably second or third week in April.
Right. And occasionally it was on our meeting day, but not this year. We might have to change something in here depending on their schedule also.
No, I don't think, if anything this year, I imagine it would be virtual. April is Arbor Day, April is the Tree City USA
Correct,
Awards,
correct.
so the April meeting is important just to, I think, communicate what's happening with the
Okay.
assessment. That's also when we should be getting back our public comments.
Right.
So from an assessment standpoint, that
Alright.
meeting would let us know whether or not we need an equalization board.
To come about.
And if
February,
our,
March, April, September, October, December.
if our next meeting is in September, that's when we would submit our data to the auditor
Mhm.
for,
Correct.
and begin budget planning for 2023.
So currently, we will then meet the next time in February
Mhm.
at 10 a.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Thursday, you might.
So we'll go ahead and get these outlined in a Zoom calendar as well, and Sheila will get the meeting invites out to you all so that they're on your calendar. I
Okay,
know that's easier for me to have all those things lined up, rather than guessing through an email.
So we're talking about February,
So,
March, April, September, October, and December? What did we just come up with?
yes, sir.
Oh, good, I was paying attention.
February,
That's-
March, April.
Good job.
Pay attention, you. February,
Oh.
March, April, September, October, December.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right, any further, as I used to go around the table, anybody have anything further to add, subtract? Otherwise, everyone has
Well,
a
Merry
very,
Christmas. Women
Yes.
miss your special holidays and have a good winter. And when we come back in February, maybe we'll see a light at the end of this tunnel we're going through.
Hopefully
sir.
so.
don't think so for a little while, but okay. Everybody have a nice holiday,
So motion.
whatever you celebrate. Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, or one friend of mine, all three.
Right.
So we have a motion to adjourn?
Need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right.
All right.
I don't think we even need to vote on that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you later.